Alright folks, we're back for part 2 of Movie Moments and Movie Memories. Again, I'm here with Ty from the Pop Culture Corner. Well, Ty, what is your favorite moments? I mean, there's a lot of great moments in Hollywood movies. You know, that scene with Harrison Ford and that idol at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, The Shining, where Jack Nicholson's looking out, looking right through that big old hole in the door and everything and saying, "Here's Johnny." You know, so many great movie moments, man. I mean, which one do you really, that really hit you? And that, because they're there to remind you in your brain, like when you see a clip of it and everything, you're like, oh, I got to see that movie again. Just because that one certain clip, Pulp Fiction's my favorite film of all time. And whenever I hear Sam Jackson recite those lines of Ezekiel 25:25, I'm like, I'm going to watch this movie again. I've watched it over 100 times, maybe if not more. But I'm going to watch it again just because I saw that clip, And what are those movies that you were like, that's a great scene, or that memorable scene that everybody loves and everything, or that scene that was personal to you that made you sum up that movie?
Yeah, so here's something that not a lot of people know. My favorite movie of all time is actually The Titanic, which is different than someone. If you thought about a 28-year-old white guy, right? What's his favorite movie? Typically, The Titanic is not going to be the answer that someone will get.
That's true.
Titanic is my favorite movie of all time for so many different reasons. It was personal, sentimental to me. My mom and I watched it. I remember watching I didn't see it in theaters because of my age, but I ended up seeing it in theaters years later. But when they remastered it, my mom had like the VHS. It was multiple VHS. That's how long that movie is.
Yeah. I have it actually. I actually have it. I'm gonna review it on. I'm gonna review it one day.
Yeah, it's one of the best movies of all time. But I mean, it's just different. It doesn't have any action, or doesn't have. I mean, there's maybe like a couple scenes, 3 scenes, 4 scenes that you could consider like upbeat or actiony, but not too many. But the scene when they don't cut, they're taking you through the ship.
Yeah.
No cutscenes. And it goes up the staircase, like the ballroom, up the staircase, through the ballroom, into the dining hall, and it goes pretty much all the way through the ship with no cutscenes. And that is, when I started learning about film, it became more clear how hard it is to do something like that.
Oh yeah.
And what has to go right. There was I looked it up since in my years. There were thousands of extras in that scene throughout the ship. Not thousands. It might have been closer to like 800 extras in that ship, in that scene where they do that, and all of it had to go so perfect. And if something went wrong, they would have to start from the beginning. And it's a 2 to 3 minute long scene, but it feels like an eternity. And then obviously, like, when Jack holds Rose at the top of the ship, or what's the top of the ship called? Is it a stern?
I think it's the stern. I think it's the stern. I think it is.
There's a stern and a bow.
Yeah.
I'm not good with that kind of stuff. But when he holds her hips and she like does the hands up to the side, I mean that's iconic and it's all right. But that movie does something to me, and there's no film that will ever be able to take its place. It's locked in at number 1, no matter what. And I've seen movies that are obviously better in terms of action or quality or anything, but never story.
Yeah.
The Titanic story it will forever be something that means something to me.
Yeah, I highly understand. My brother used to joke and said that the Titanic was the most expensive passion project James Cameron ever did, and but I have to agree. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of it at first, but I respected. And I'm not the biggest James Cameron fan personally, as a human being. I just, I don't know. I always got the vibe of him being a prick. But I do have to say, I respected his filmmaking abilities and his passion to say, I want to break out of that cube that everybody's in Hollywood, you know, and he has done that, and especially Titanic, and he made those great moments, you know, and of course music also helps out a lot. James Horner was a great composer, and I do always, I will say this, one of my top 5 favorite films, because mostly the music, and I own the soundtrack, was Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. His music set that mood of that film. I mean, I don't think you could have gotten any better when it came to the acting was on par, the story itself worked. You know, the editing wasn't always the best in that movie, but the music brought it all together. And, you know, and of course, you know, that music, you know, the music going as, you know, the planet was coming alive, and Kirk was racing to find, when he realized that his friend may have just sacrificed himself, and racing down the corridors, and he's racing down a ladder and everything, and he sees his friend in this radiation chamber room. He's kind of slouched over, and he's going to burst through that door, and he's going to go in there saving his friends, but he's getting stopped by Scotty and Bones and other people and everything, because, you know, he would have endangered himself. And then the realization that I can't save my friend. I've saved him so many times before. I've cheated death so many times before, and, you know, I finally defeated my mortal enemy, and I have to sacrifice my best friend for this. You know, that scene, you know, especially nowadays, you know, it ran to me even more personally and everything, because, you know, the day that my brother had passed, that's kind of like what it felt like. You know, I had more of an emotional deepness to that scene of Kirk and Spock, you know, separated between a plexiglass. You know, they couldn't, you know, he couldn't embrace his friend, you know, the way that he should have. You know, they were separated, but you know, I can understand that wholeheartedly now. And the music, you know, that music that James Horner had for that one particular scene, you know, it was just unbelievable. I can remember as a little kid when I saw that in theaters. And even a few years ago, the local theater that runs old films played that movie, and a guy who had never, that was a friend of my wife's husband, he'd never seen the movie before, but I invited him to go see it, and my middle boy too was there, and I can see the look in his eyes when he was like, because he's like, Spock died, you know, he's like, and he was like, because he never knew that happened or anything like that, because he was unfamiliar with the Star Trek property, but this look in his eyes, he was just shocked, and to see that's the exact same look that I saw like almost 20 some odd years, or maybe almost 30 years before that and everything. When I was a little kid, I had that look, and I remember looking around as a little kid, you know, people shocked in awe that, you know, that they actually pulled that trigger. And you can't, as again, no drugs, no alcoholic beverage can ever replace those feelings that you can get when you're watching a movie that really impacts you. And I will say this, the most impact movie that I ever been to was Schindler's List. Not one person, when they got up from that movie, once the credits rolled, did not say one word. That was the first time I heard complete, utter, not even the crickets made a sound, because it made such an impact on people's perception, and even especially a bigger perception on World War II, because something like that really had not been done. And Spielberg, to his credit, you know, really just sometime before he did Jurassic Park, you know, that same year, but Schindler's List, you know, he really doing it in black and white, and having that little girl with the that was dressed in red be the only color, and the candle, you know, being lit up. But the whole movie, the movie itself was that big moment, you know, and it was like, you know, this is what happened, folks. This is what kind of got tucked away there for a while before people started coming out and saying this is what happened. I mean, and I'm from Jewish descent. You know, my dad's dad, I believe, was Jewish. I never got to know his dad. He kind of left the picture long before. But you know, I'm thinking, wow, I want to know more about this, and that's exactly what a movie's supposed to do, especially when it's telling you the true story of someone's life and everything. You want to know more, and it brings you to another level, and it makes you think, well, that's pretty cool. That guy's job looks pretty cool. Maybe I want to try that, you know, or you know, that story is amazing. I want to find out more about it. There's probably more to it that didn't get put in the movie. You know, that's, you know, I almost say this, is that movies can be a tool to open your mind to the world.
I agree completely. Another movie that stands out for me, I don't know why, is The Dark Knight. Seeing it in theaters, the opening of the film, when you see the robbery take place. So right from the opening scene, I was so into it. Like there's something exhilarating about it. And then right towards the end of that opening scene, when he pulls off the mask and there's Heath Ledger, all suited up and painted out as the Joker, and finally getting to see him in his full form, final form, was amazing, and he captured the character for me, and then took us on a journey.
Exactly.
I would argue that is a Joker film rather than a Batman film.
Exactly. That's because I went to the first showing on that as well, and that's my favorite Batman movie. Before it was Batman Forever for the longest time, but when The Dark Knight, you know, I went opening. Again, my wife had, you know, bought the ticket for me, an advance showing before surprised me with it. She knew I was such a Batman fan, and I was a little speculative about, you know, Heath Ledger's performance. But when I was hearing things, and even before he died, people were talking about this guy may get an Oscar nomination for this role, and you know, like, no, it's a comic book movie. Nobody's going to do that. And as you said, that opening shot, you know, when it came to, you know, just, you know, I mean, it was done in IMAX, and you were just like, wow, opening shot. You know, it's the music, it's eerie, and it's got that viola, you know, string being just kind of like, that's the best way I can make that sound. But you know, it added to it again. You know, the music again added to it, and then that little Easter egg of Heath Ledger holding that mask. That was the very same mask that Cesar Romero wore in that episode of Batman when he as a Joker in disguise. You know,
yeah,
I got that.
I think,
you know, I got that.
One second. I think Heath Ledger, you know, there's not a lot of people you can say this about, but he literally died for the role.
Yeah.
You know, he got so into it that he got too into it. And unfortunately, that you know, he paid the price with his life. But I don't know. It's hard to. You don't want to say like anything that's bad or anything like that. But you know, would he be still alive if he never got that role? Nobody can kind of see that. But he definitely took more drugs due to trying to get in that mindset, that isolated feeling of what you know, like Xanax and those drugs do to you when you don't need them, when you're not prescribed them. And he definitely took it. He took it to a next level, but his performance in that film is just remarkable.
Yeah,
it's really remarkable.
I mean, it's right there on par, like with Lecter. You know, Anthony Hopkins, Lecter. Just, you know, he didn't just portray that character; he became that character. And you know, it's just, again, those moments. I think the best moment is that you got in that movie. Again, my favorite scene in there is like when you had you know, actually there's two scenes that really knocked it out of the ballpark. The scene where, and you guys talked about it on your show not too long ago, about, you know, when he was sitting there dressed up as a nurse and he's talking to Harvey Dent and he's talking about, I'm just that crazy dog that chases after the car. I wouldn't know what to do with it if I caught it. I just do.
Yeah.
And then of course the scene where you had Batman and Joker in the interrogation room. Yeah, in the interrogation room. That's a comic book scene, man. That's a scene that the Joker and the Batman were always in that interrogation room where it's just one-on-one, and we were getting it. And I'm like, oh my God, they're I wanted the scene in the '89 film, but we never got it. You know, closest we got was, you know, Batman, you know, beating up Joker. You know, but you know, I mean, that movie is, God, I just love that movie. That's the reason why I got the poster of Heath Ledger's Joker, you know, one of the teaser posters. I got that matted and taken care of. You know, I got almost all the Batman posters, but you know, that's the one out of that movie I picked out because, you know, it was just so iconic, and you know, it's just those great scenes. I mean, just the scenes like from Jaws. You know, I can remember, you know, them, you know, just, you know, when they were sitting there ad-libbing and singing or talking about, you know, the Indianapolis inside the Orca, you know, you know, I can remember sitting there, even though I didn't see Jaws in theaters, I was watching it on TV with my mom and dad, and I would get that. I would love to have been, you know, minus the shark, I would have been loved to have been in that situation. You know, sometimes I was, you know, when it came to hearing the old grisly veteran gentleman, you know, who had been through hell and back in a war, and you know, he's telling his old war stories. And I mean, because I worked with a lot of World War II veterans and Vietnam veterans, you know, just hearing those stories, you know, that, you know, I put the parallels together, and you know, and yeah, I'm like, wow, I'm actually in that scene. You know, I'm talking to this gentleman, he's telling me his war stories, and you know, again, you know, movies can imitate life, and life can, you know, somewhere, you know, in between get you into a feel like, you know, like you're in that scene. You're like, wow, I feel like I'm in that scene in that movie with that situation. You know, that's what I feel like right now. And but I mean, what's any more other favorite movie scenes you got? You know, that you can remember. You know, of any era of movies, comedies, action. You know, those certain moments. You're like, love that scene.
Yeah, so I remember in the first Spider-Man films, the Tobey Maguire ones.
Yep.
Seeing him swinging through New York, you know, after reading the books or seeing the animated show, and then seeing it come to life and swinging through New York was always it was something for me that was amazing. Captain America: Winter Soldier, the whole film. I mean, I could pick any number of scenes from it. Any Tarantino film.
Yep.
Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight. Again, I could throw you any scene and have that feeling. Tarantino films do something that I think is almost like lost in movie making.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I know you like Pulp Fiction, but are you a fan of all of them?
Absolutely, everything.
I think it's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Directors. I'm not a huge what movie doesn't have Pulp Fiction?
Jackie Brown.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Jackie Brown.
Same here. Same here.
Films that I didn't really.
But that grew on me. That movie grew on me as the years went on.
Okay.
But I have to say, when it comes to a Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I mean, there wasn't like that one memorable scene, but that whole movie was meant, because it was a love letter to his Hollywood, the Hollywood that he fell in love with, and it inspired him to do what he's doing. I mean, that's very hard to do, to make a whole scene, a whole movie so memorable. And I know it had its detractors and stuff like that, but I had to go in and say my favorite part is that when Brad Pitt's character's flashbacking, and his character's fighting Bruce Lee, you know, And, you know, I mean, I know, say what you will about the scene, like some people said it was depicting Bruce Lee badly, but, I mean, that was some people's view. Yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, that was some people's viewpoints in real life of how they thought. So, you know, he was kind of channeling what people thought about Bruce Lee. You know, well, this is just a loudmouth little, you know, Asian man. What does he know? But, you know, of course, we know Bruce Lee knew a lot of things. He was a great philosopher and a great martial artist. And so... But, I mean, that scene in itself, that's just, I think it's going to become one of those most iconic scenes, like just like with Cary Grant in North by Northwest being chased by that airplane. Great movie. I mean, I think Cary Grant was funnier in that movie than anything else, but it was how Alfred Hitchcock suspense thriller, and, you know, and it was a great scene, that scene of that plane just flying right behind them, and, you know, and I do think that for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that right there, that scene with Bruce Lee's character and Brad Pitt's character, you know, kind of squaring off, and, you know, basically prick waving is what, you know, the scene was supposed to be showing and everything. Two tough guys that, you know, like, prove yourself, you know, and I think it did pay a little more tribute to Bruce Lee. I know people was a little assaulted by it, but I do think it does pay good homage to Bruce Lee, and the fact that he had to have been a fun guy to be around too. So, but
what I liked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is you thought you knew the story,
exactly,
or you thought you knew what you were getting yourself into. But I mean, he took liberties, obviously,
yeah.
in that final 30 minutes, and I enjoyed that. I did, because I was like, okay, I kind of know how this is going to go. Even though Rick Dalton and, what was Brad Pitt's character's name?
Oh, God. You got me on that one. I had it on the tip of my tongue, and then you asked me, and I'm like, it's like gone.
I forget what his name was in there, but, I was like, okay, I know they're not real people, and they're based on, people or just completely made up.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling I know where this is going. And my jaw was on the floor when all was all said and done.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. So he did his own thing and changed the story kind of altogether.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like, again, it's a movie, but I don't think a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people. I think that one's going to age better with time.
Yeah.
A lot of people have the PC culture that is the world that we live in today. I don't think they can handle it.
Yeah.
Tarantino's like I said, Tarantino's a lost art form, because the culture that we live in now there's no way people are always gonna give him crap for what he does, because he's not your normal Hollywood director.
Yeah.
And he does not care what you think.
Yep. Exactly. Well,
Another one, Reservoir Dogs, is one of my favorite films of all time. Pulp Fiction too, but Reservoir Dogs I really enjoy. And I don't think, to be honest with you, I probably haven't watched it in almost 10 years, and I don't remember much of it, but I know I love it. That's the craziest thing. And that's what I was reading. If a film can do that, like, again, I was younger when I saw it. I was, 17, 18 in high school, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, that was so cool, younger kids, but, and I probably haven't seen it since then, but I know it was one of my favorite movies, and for that to be the case, right?
Yeah.
A movie that you don't even completely remember, but it's amazing. It just, once you say the name, it gives you that tingly feeling, like, yeah, that was great. And that's what I always loved about movies in general, is that they make you feel.
Yep, exactly. And, it's those moments, that